expert services.
Motion to bring it to the floor.
So moved.
Supervisor Shepler, second by Supervisor Diamond. Discussion.
It's all county fund. It's no county funding, all indigent legal services funding.
And the time frame on this distribution?
It will just roll over from where our funding leaves off from 6. So the contract is dated, I'm sorry.
To the 23rd of
Yep.
2023?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, for total contract, $320,436.
right.
Does that include the past of the old 6, or is this all
No,
in it?
this is on top of 6. So when we finish spending all of 6, we spend 11.
Okay. Any questions for the public defender? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries.
Thank you. The next one is intent to fill vacancy for the coordinating assistant public defender. You previously had approved this. However, during the pandemic, I had not found a candidate. And then I stopped interviewing because I didn't have a place to house the candidate once I filled the position. So at this point in time, we're moving towards getting space, which is coming up later on the agenda. And so now I would request a notice to fill vacancy. Nothing has changed. It's all funded by Office of Indigent Legal Services. It is a supervising attorney to supervise my younger attorneys and also cover cases and do a caseload.
Thank you. Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Diamond and with Supervisor Shepler on the second. Better look down here. Ben has his hand up. So, discussion. Did you put out a notice with before, and did you get any respondents?
We did get some, but it was right at it was the end of the year, beginning of 2020, and I hadn't found a candidate that I thought really fit it. And then the pandemic happened and I stopped posting the position.
Okay.
It's going to be a harder one to fill because it really needs the ability to supervise others and have trial experience. It's not a new baby attorney in the sense of someone who's been newly admitted. Someone really needs to have experience.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
So,
There's a hand back there.
oh, Ben.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Marcia. I was just wondering if and I can also direct this to the DA. Do you see the difficulty that a lot of industries are having in getting qualified individuals to fill positions, kind of rolling over into the legal community?
At least for me, for this position, someone really has to have trial experience and been an experienced litigator. So that's the piece that I have difficulty here. In terms of the other pieces that you're talking about is finding other employees. We don't really have those openings right now. I have been getting people sending me resumes, and I'll send them a letter out indicating I don't have any beginning opening positions, and I ask if I can keep their resume on file.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next thing I'd like to do is to request a contract with Queensbury Taxi. I have about $1,500 for transportation. We previously used some money to get tokens for clients who are on the bus line, the Glens Falls, Greater Glen Falls Transit. And so we can give them tokens if they need to come see us. We can give it to the attorney in like city court and ask them to have the client contact us. But not all my clients and not all the residents in Warren County that I represent are on the bus line. So the purpose of this is to have a contract with Queensbury Taxi to allow for bringing clients to and from. Now, the reason we suggested Queensbury Taxi is because there was a program that ran out of funding, but Queensbury Taxi did it, and they did it with vouchers. So there was no money exchanged, and then we could comply with requirements for the county in order to pay for it. So that's why this contract would obviously has to be written by the county attorney, and they will work on that at their convenience. But I have funding, and it would be really helpful to make sure I get clients to where they need to go. In addition, it would be if a client has a mental health competency exam or some legal requirements that they have to do for court. If they can't physically pay for the transportation, I have grant money. So the county doesn't pay a penny of it. And it's all from grant money to help get clients where they need to be, to keep them out of jail, to make sure that they're complying with what they need to do. And if their issue is they don't have transportation, this will at least be a solution. And it's funded by the Office of Indigent Legal Services. And again, when the grant money runs out, there may be another distribution or grant. As you know, I'm in here all the time with it, and we can use different ones. So what I am doing in my grants and distributions now is putting in transportation money, because once this happens, this will help my clients in the long run, and I don't want to run out of funding for it. So I know that was more than the general information I usually give, but this one I'm very excited about if this will work, and if obviously if you'll give me permission to work on this.
Well, let's see about that. Who'd like to bring motion to the floor? Supervisor Shepler, second by Supervisor Diamond. Discussion. Yeah. Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Chairman Leggett. Marcy, you're just unbelievable. You really are. I mean, what your passion for what you do and how you find, and I have to say, it sounds like 7/8 of your apartment is funded by a grant, which is wonderful. But really, how you present yourself at every meeting that you come to is really admirable by me, and really looking out for your clients. So I just want to reach out and say thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much. I really care about what I'm doing, and the transportation piece is really important. And I'm finally reaching a point in the Harrell Herring funding to be able to get to this piece, and that becomes important. And again, with the distributions, if we can figure out a way to put it in, and I think there is, if we cut down the CLE, continuing legal education funds, we could put in transportation funds. So there's a way to work on it, because we're not doing continuing legal education where we travel and we go away. Everything is virtual. And, you know, in terms of concerns for traveling, I think for a while we're going to still be virtual, or at most in staying within New York State, not leaving the state. So that will give us more money for transportation for clients.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Sue?
Thank you very much. Question, how much is this grant that you're looking to going to be for?
Right now, I have $1,500 that I could use. And again, in the next year, under Harrell Herring, I will put more money in each year so that we may have 1,500 now, and then I'll have more money in the future. It also depends on how much it's being used. And it's hard for me to judge. We used much fewer dollar tokens than I ever expected with clients. I expected to use a lot more. So again, I'm not sure, but I know that I have run into situations where clients say they don't have transportation to get to the things they need to do. And it was a program called Uplift, and they ran out of funding, and we used that a lot, and it was really helpful for us. And so this is my version of Uplift.
Okay. Thank you.
And now when this comes back before the board, there will be a contract. It'll have the amount in there and such. Will this be showing up at the next board meeting in full, or do we have to look at the contract at another committee meeting?
I would ask that it would come up at the next board meeting. I'm sorry, at the next full board meeting for approval. Obviously, the county attorney would have to do the contract, and whatever their requirements are or their time frame. If they're not ready to do it for the next board meeting, then obviously there obviously would have to be extended, but it really depends what their staff can do, and I can't make a commitment for them.
Rightfully so. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you again. The last one is the contract for space for 333 Glen. The final decision from the county is there's not office space for me. I appreciate everybody working with me and trying to find it. We would like to go to 333 Glen. I went there last week, looked at the space. It is still available. It is the cheapest space that we can find, meaning least expensive, but it's still a good space. There is security in the sense that before someone can come to see us, they have to be buzzed in. The doors don't automatically open to the building. So before someone can get buzzed into our space, we will tell security at their front desk who we're looking to see. No one's coming in without going through being buzzed in, and we know that they're coming. If there are clients that we want to meet with that we're not sure about security, we can use the centralized arraignment part as our conference room during the day when that's not in session. So that's become our conference room space, and we sign up for it. We have a sign up sheet, so we know when someone's coming in or out, and that way we could get somebody through a metal detector, because obviously to come into the county building to my department, you have to go through a magnetometer. So that's our way to deal with that. The other thing about 333 Glen I liked is there is space adjoining it. So in the future, when I have additional funding under Harrell Herring to get additional staff, I have a place in mind where to put it. The third piece I really like about it is they have conference rooms in that building that we can sign up and use. And so we could do it for an office, the entire office having coming in, and again, complying with COVID, or if we need another additional space, if I have two attorneys who need to meet with clients at the same time, we can sign up for an office space there. To use a conference room, we could use the conference room that we're going to have in 333 Glen, subject to your approval. And they also have a huge room where we could have a large number of people that we could reserve space with. It looks like it's an old cafeteria kind of room, really big. So we can sign up for that space also. And we have discussed the space with Office of Indigent Legal Services, and these other pieces that we can use in the building are very attractive to ILS, knowing that maybe we could do a continuing legal education program in one of those spaces, and we could invite Washington County Public Defender's Office or Saratoga County Public Defender's Office. So there's space that we could use. We also like it because there's other county departments in that building, and they've been very happy there. We've spoken to IT about phones and the computer service, and getting things put over there into there is not a problem. So we've been happy with all those pieces. So that was more information that you really wanted, but I just thought it was important to give you the overview of it. And I know there's no contract extended here. I know the county attorney's office wanted to rewrite the contract. They had previously redlined it, and it had been approved with that agency for the lease association at 333 Glen, but I was told that the county attorney's office wants to just rewrite it and have a cleaner lease instead of all the red lines and submit it over there. So that's my request.
Motion to bring it to the floor.
So moved.
Supervisor Shepler, second by Supervisor Driscoll. Discussion. So Supervisor McGowan and Supervisor Shepler.
Well, let her go first. She's on the
Okay,
committee.
Supervisor.
Don't
Thank
mind.
you. It's really no discussion. I just have a comment. And Marcy, I just wanted to say I'm happy you finally found a home spot for you guys. I'm just sorry that it's not here at the county building.
I agree.
But,
I agree with your sentiments. I really wanted it here. I think it's a better location, but there's only so much space.
I know.
And, someday if something happens with the old jail and whatever happens with that space, maybe we could get space in where that space is now. That would be great. But again, that's further down the line. And I really, with everything opening up again, I need to have space for my attorneys, and I need to be able to hire under the Harrell Herring requirements so we don't mess up getting their funding.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Marcy, once again, you're just a ball of fire, first thing in the morning. Love you. So, I want to reach out and apologize. We have worked on this for a long time, and it's a little embarrassing that the county, and I don't want to say embarrassing, but it's just been so hard to move forward in finding the space here. And it seems like a lot of times in government, things take a little bit longer than in the private sector, which is frustrating for me. But your patience going through the pandemic worked out in its favor. But really, the sounds of it right now of going over there to Glen Street, I like the idea of sharing. And like I said, maybe you never know, maybe the other counties need the same space and can use that. So I really admire you putting that together, and you could talk all day if you want. It would never bother me. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments.
And Marcy, on the packet we have here, Resolution 291 of 2020, Finance Committee approved $1,000 a month. Is
Yes,
that still
that's what the lease
amount
was.
there? Okay. Good.
Okay.
So that at the full board meeting, we
Yes,
should
please.
have the full text of a lease or with amounts?
Great.
Okay.
I'm sure that one the
Or
county
will that-
attorney's office can do because they had it redlined and it was agreed upon. So I think that one won't be hard.
Okay. Will this go off to finance from here?
She has the funding, so it's just a resolution.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
In terms of discussion, thank you very much. In terms of discussion items, I wanted you to know what continuing legal education programs my attorneys are doing. And again, it's all funded from Office of Indigent Legal Services. It was the one on the marijuana was not as good as the later one on the marijuana that was done. But this one was good. Nellie Halloran went to that. Carlene Barnes went to one on cross-examination. And a lot of our attorneys went to the one on number C, which is Warren County Criminal and Surrogate Court Practice. That was when Rob Smith, our county court judge, was speaking, and Ricky from the surrogate's office was speaking, and that was very helpful. And then Brian went to a better jury selection CLE, and we appreciate the ability to go to these CLEs and to use the Indigent Legal Services funding, and you allowing us to spend those funds. So I just wanted you to know what we're spending them on.
Oh, thank you. That's always good for us to know. Keep those communication lines open.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate all the work that's being done out of that office. It is a busy office. Any other questions for the public defender? Mr. Lehman, any public comment?
Good morning, Chairman Leggett. Nothing on YouTube as of now.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mark. Call up the district attorney. Caratone, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you. Good morning. I don't know if you can hear me on this.
Yeah. You might want to adjust the tablet in front of you so that we can see it better.
We're not looking up, you know.
If it goes up that high,
I'm sorry.
it says, you know.
Oh, I see. I see.
Jason, can you
There you go.
bend your knees a little?
There we go.
I didn't see my picture there. Sorry about that. All right. So do you have to do some steps first, or do I get going?
You can keep going.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just go right down the line. And what I'm going to do, you'll see 4 and 5. I've highlighted those for myself. I'm just going to set them aside because the first things, including the discussion item, are all personnel related.
Okay.
Number 1 is a request to delete the senior crime victim specialist position. And it says create, and I'll use the term recreate the full-time crime victim specialist position. We had a long-term employee, excellent assistant to victims. She interned with us and then worked for almost 15 years in the office. She got a promotional opportunity in government, just substantial improvement in her economic opportunities and otherwise. And so we were very proud of her, and she was able to move on. And as a result, we have this opening in our program. And so she had become, over the years, a senior crime victim specialist. We'd like to fill with a crime victim specialist because there is a civil service list, and we actually have identified a candidate who was in our office and previously was working in that role. So that's why when you see delete and create, we would no longer have the senior position. We would have the crime victim specialist position if permitted. And then, of course, we want to fill that.
Okay. Can we take 1 and 2 together? Motion bring 1 and 2 to the floor. Diamond with Supervisor Driscoll on a second. Any questions? Hearing none, call the questions for vote on 1 and 2. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
You're going to hear a theme here. So number 3, we have one of my first hires who was terrific. And the problem is when you get someone really terrific, other people want them. And the city of Glens Falls is going to benefit. She was able to obtain a promotional and economic opportunity and has resigned to begin that, which I think she starts today. Again, we were very sad to see her go, but that creates an opening. And in this case, actually, that's in my discussion item. In this case, this is the individual who we anticipate will be the crime victim specialist. So this is the clerk 2 position. So we now have a vacancy there that we're looking to advertise and fill.
Okay. Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Diamond with second by Supervisor Shepler. Discussion. Because the legal clerk is now being promoted
Yes.
and that leaves a vacancy to fill. Thank you.
And if I can, I'm just going to jump down. You'll see 6 is request to fill 6 assistant DA position. Again, this was a shorter term attorney.
Jason,
Yes.
let's just move a vote on this. We have.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Any further discussion on number 3? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Back to number 6.
So 6 is we're requesting to fill the 6 assistant DA position, and really 6, 7, and 8 all go together. She also obtained an opportunity in a bigger office downstate, also staying in government. So all 3 actually are remaining in government. And we're looking to fill that. And for the purposes of ascension, what I'd like to do is, and then I'll explain, take our 7th ADA and just have his slot be considered the 6th, have our 8th, have him be considered the 7th, and then fill the 8th. I did want to make sure, after speaking to the county administrator, he just wanted to make clear, the board will have to amend the salary schedule because our 6th made slightly more because she'd been here a little longer. And that grid that was created, sadly, this won't be a financial benefit to ADA 7 and 8. They'll just have new numbers. So one will be 6 and 7, but their salary would remain unchanged for this year, which is slightly less than the departing 6 ADA.
Okay. Motion to bring 6, 7, and 8 to the floor. Supervisor Driscoll, second by Supervisor Diamond. Thank you. Discussion. Supervisor Driscoll.
Good morning, Jason. Thank you, Chairman. Jason, in the past, you've spoken about competitive salaries, and I just want to make sure that in filling the 8th position, and then also slightly changing the number 6 position, you're going to remain competitive and be able to attract qualified individual.
Well, I guess what I would say is it appears that all 3 of these people are leaving for better financial opportunities.
Right.
So based on that, in 2 weeks, this is an area that I feel I have to look at, but I'm not in a position to tell you right now. I did start looking, and I think it really, to be fair, I need to analyze it a lot further so that I can present to you facts and information. So my hope is that I will be able to, but clearly I'm going to be looking at someone who's brand new, that's going to need to be trained and learn the whole system. And as you can see, we're going to have quite a bit of training to do and interviewing and hiring, hopefully. But that is an area of concern. Certainly when you see people moving for substantial pay raises, I have to look at that.
Sure. Good luck.
Thank you.
Supervisor Stroud has joined us. John, we are on items 6, 7, and 8 of the district attorneys.
Oh, thank you.
Considering them all at once. And the reworking of the pay matrix, is that a committee decision, or is that?
Oh, so this is not the matrix is remaining identically the same. The only thing that they wanted me to, or Ryan asked me to bring to your attention is the salaries of 6 or 7 and 8 won't change.
Okay.
But apparently there has to be an amendment to the salary schedule because the current 6th was making slightly more because she'd been here a year longer. And as you know, there weren't any increases because of COVID. She was here when there was 1 increase that she had benefited from. It might be $1,500. I'm not sure the difference, but this is not a pay increase for these attorneys.
And for everybody's information here, that several years ago, a matrix was created that basically had, call it grade and step to it there, so that things came in line. We were able to get the public defender's office onto something similar, as well as Department of Social Service attorneys as well. So, unified that. Any other questions on 6, 7, and 8? Brad?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
President McGowan?
Jason, I know we've talked about this before, the salary thing, and that's, that's 4 items. A lot of people in your department, which is all out anyways. Unfortunately, we're a public identity, that works off the taxpayers. And,
Right.
Even though, I'd like to be able to say, oh, geez, give everybody a raise because they work so hard, on the other hand, that, you get flack from the outside. Marcy, and sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but she finds a lot of these grants. Is there any grants out there that we could get help from the state for? Because I know when you took the position, the state came back and said, oh, no, we have to pay you. And that was a big decision for you to come up and say that. You only been in a couple months,
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I understand the work that's all involved in how everything is. Is there something the state can help us out here, or?
Well, I think that there is help that's just, if you look at it, and you've heard Marcy say, and I don't know how many times today, and she said over and over, Office of Indigent Legal Services, right? So there's massive amounts of money that flow, and it's not just Warren County, this is across the state, into public defenders, assigned counsel in those agencies. Huge amounts. You hear it. I mean, they're paying for taxi cab rides. There isn't an agency paying for, the victim taxi rides or our witnesses to come meet with us. If you look at the public safety factor and the big picture, and you say, all right, well, what's it going to cost to have a DA's office who handles all the discovery, all the special prosecutions, all the appeals, everything, a public defender's office that handles all that they handle, and assigned counsel's office that handles all that they handle. And if you look at the big picture and you say, well, we're fortunate that they are funding one side heavily, which is the public defender's office. If you look at the big picture and say, what's the total cost to the county? Yes, they are not funding DA's offices right now across the state. You'll see my number, and I think it's like $38,000. It's been $38,000 for years. We did get one large grant award. The application is somewhere up here waiting for approval and submission. I believe because of the volume that our office does, it's a discovery grant. It's $323,000. It will just go into the coffers. It doesn't go into my budget, but it's to fund the cost that went into just us implementing discovery. And I can tell you that it wasn't enough, to be perfectly frank. The sheriff's office is involved in that as well. We could have gone beyond, but you're only allowed to submit up to that 323. So what I think when you're looking at it, you've got to ask yourself, what is the role of a DA's office? What do we want? What's important to us? And if we're just looking at, instead of saying, well, Marcy's office is able to get all this funding, so therefore we'll just keep giving them new attorneys and new staff, do we think maybe there is another side to that coin, even if the grant isn't there? As you build one side, and we are in an adversarial situation, you want to make sure that you're adjusting both sides equally. And it may take taxpayer dollars in the big picture of criminal justice. But Marcy and I are both in criminal justice, right? So I think that's one way to look at it and say, all right, they're funding one side. Just as, imagine if they only funded the DA's office. And I'm not saying that's what's happening, but if they only funded our side, we'd still need these people to have attorneys, to have representation, to have good attorneys. It's critical, and you need it on both sides.
Well, a lot of Marcy's, if I may, it seems like a lot of Marcy's, a lot of mandates, but you've had a lot of mandates too. And unfortunately, the state comes down with all these mandates, all right, but there's never a price tag on them, and it turns around to be put back onto the county. And it's very frustrating because this is not the first time you've been up here doing this, and it's just, it seems to just be getting worse. So, I would like to see, because now, I've been frustrated with Marcy having to go off site now. We've worked on that. We got a court system that's being built. We're going on its 5th year now. It's like, come on. and I can't say anything in a negative factor because, you know, my business is in the private sector and I understand it's just frustrating. But for you and your department, I've been through it. You're crammed in there, you're on top of each other, and it's nonstop for you guys. I just don't understand why there's not more of a balance, you know, because we seem to, you know, fund, it just doesn't seem right. So anything we could do or anything we might hear to help, you know, offset some of the salaries to keep good people.
Well, that's why I would say one way to look at it is say, what is our total cost for our criminal justice system? In let's say, instead of Marcy getting the flow of money because of the whole hearing lawsuit, the money was flowing into the DA's office. You'd still have to look at the whole picture. The county is benefiting greatly because of oils and all the things Marcy's able to access. That does not exist. There wasn't, the lawsuit didn't also go and give funding to the DA's office. As you just stated, instead, they said, you must deal with discovery. You must supply all, and I wish I only dealt with Marcy's office. When we're done with Marcy's office, we have the assigned counsel, all of their attorneys. When we're done with them, we have all the private attorneys. We're doing all of that. Marcy has other work. She has parole hearings. She has family court. So there's a broad aspect of things going. But I can tell you that when we're down 3 people, everyone is working all the time. These deadlines don't stop. We had multiple arrests. I was on the phone all weekend. All of those cases require us to have that discovery prepared and disclosed to Marcy's attorneys, the assigned counsel attorneys, the private attorneys. It's a 24/7 operation right now. And so your frustration is my frustration.
Good. As long as we're on the record, we're
Good.
frustrated together.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Any other further discussion? I'll call the question. I'm voting on numbers 6, 7, and 8. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Now I had gone back just because those were all personnel related. Number 4, here, good news, grant. This is a request to accept, we were awarded, as we have been every year I've been here and before, the aid to prosecution grant. And we're just asking permission to accept, and they do want us to file a couple of documents, but it's not like a grant application. We've been awarded it. This is a continuing thing. We always go well above and beyond this, the amount that they award. I believe it's just over $38,000. But we would like to continue to receive that and use that.
Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Driscoll, second by Supervisor Diamond. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries.
Thank you. And then last, well, other than the discussion item, number 5 is a request to amend Resolution 96 of 2020. Unfortunately, the way the resolution was written, it wasn't my intent, and that maybe was my fault. The way it's been interpreted, though, is that once we hit $5,000, we cannot spend any more money on the storage of all of our files. As you know, to comply with discovery, we had to shift to a completely digital system, which we've done. Every file that we have is digitized. And it really makes logical sense because the advent of body cams, the legal requirement of videotape interviews, 911 recordings. When they changed the discovery law, they changed what a file looks like at the onset and the requirements. The way this resolution currently works, it's what allows us to have our entire system. So when I look at a file that's being stored somewhere, we get the software is free through the New York Prosecutors Training Institute. The support is free. All they ask is that we pay for the amount of terabyte storage that we use. And I say, well, can you tell me how much that will be? And they said, how many body cams are you going to have? How many cases are you going to have? How many videos are you going to have? And so in other words, no one can tell you. It's fluid. As a case closes, it leaves that active storage to a glacial storage. So what I initially had asked was just to remove the cap, because right now we have a bill that's unpaid. I called them and I said, I can't pay the bill right now, because right now the way that resolution reads, the money's in the budget. We have it in the budget. My first thought was just remove the cap, because this isn't it's not like a frivolous thing that we're just like, oh, good. They said there's no cap on how many donuts we can buy, so we're just going to buy a bunch of donuts. It's literally the storage for all files that exist in our office. So But in speaking to the county administrator, he said maybe a cap, maybe a utilization cap would make more sense so that there's some control. A thought that I had to do that, when we initially got the storage, it was $110 per terabyte per month. So that was the cost. They've actually given us a lower rate this round, a significantly lower rate. But if I just give you that lower rate and it goes up $5 a month, then we're back here discussing this resolution. So what I'm going to suggest is, what if we pick the first rate as a cap, but instead of just having a single number cap, we say it's going to be how much you utilize, but if it goes above that initial rate of $110 per terabyte per month, then you got to come back and we've got to address it if the costs were to go above that. Currently, it's gone down, which, as we all know, that's a rarity, but it has right now. Our last contract, we actually got a lower fee. So I'm fine with no cap, but this is an ongoing and continual expense to have files, to have an office operate. And I would suggest you go with the terabyte storage because that's how the billing occurs. So if you utilize 10 in that month, that's how much it is. So any thoughts or discussion, questions on that?
Well, let's bring it to the floor. Would like to bring number 5 to the floor.
I'll bring it to the floor. John
Supervisor
Stroud.
Stroud on the second. Thank you. And was the auditor reading that 5,000 to be an annual fee, an annual cap?
Well, when we first came up, and obviously Discovery was brand new, put in there, in my agenda, I had written annual, but apparently it just didn't translate well. Maybe I didn't. So the way it's being read is just cap. Once you hit 5,000, you can spend no more. You can't. So if there's new arrests this weekend and you create an additional file, you have no place to store it. This is essentially what this circumstance is. I don't think it's through anyone's fault. I think it's just something that we need to address.
Okay. So,
Chairman,
yeah, Supervisor Stroud.
yeah, you know, storage is what it is. I don't see why we have any cap on that because, you know, there's no choice. You have to do what the state tells you to do. And if it's, 88 million megabytes or whatever it is, it's going to be what it's going to be. I don't see why we have a cap on this at all.
That might have to do with the chairman of that committee at the time there wanting to put a limit on expenses. So we can revise that. So
I'm assuming that was you.
it was. So,
Thanks for your honesty.
So yeah, I mean, it's basically, as Supervisor Strauss said, it is what it is. If we get a lot more files and they're bigger, then we have to store them. As files close, the good news is it goes into what's called glacial storage, which is at a significantly reduced rate. I think it's 1/5 the cost. And we still have access. It's just slower access. So and this is happening every day, as a case is concluded, we close that file and then it transfers into glacial storage. Let's say that we receive what's called a 440 motion in the future, and that file has to go back. In the old days, we'd call to someone in the basement and we'd say, we need this file. They would go search for it, grab the box, and in a day or two, or as fast as they got it, it would come up to our office. We would work on it. Then we would have someone deliver it back. It would get refiled. That's not how it's done anymore. Now we literally go into the system. I click on that and it says this will be retrieved from glacial storage. And usually within a day, we're able to work on that file again. It does go back into the active tier while it's active. And then as soon as it's closed, it goes back into the glacial tier.
On the resolution 96 of 2020, there was $1,320 also mentioned in there. Is there anything that needs to be done with that?
I'm sorry, can you point me in the right direction?
Right. So on resolution number 96 of 2020, says a total amount not to exceed $1,320 with the cap of 5,000.
I'm not sure if that was a monthly. I'm looking at it right now. So I think this might be helpful. Since we've started, so when we started, with this
Right.
discovery mandate, no one knew how much data every case was going to hold. No one knew what was going to come our way or how massive it was going to be. We're all, and when I say we all DAs, and I'm sure the public defender's office is seeing this too, just the immense amount of data that's coming through. Since this has happened, the state has now mandated, and the Capital District region is the first area, I believe, doing it, state police body cameras. I just had a case 2 weekends ago. There's 11 body cameras in that case. I'm trying to figure, I've got some ideas that will reduce storage costs, but it's all new. I mean, this is just another thing that's been added, another layer to the onion.
Do we need any other addition then for number 5 on the request to amend resolution 96 besides remove cap?
If it removes the cap, but you do point out some other financial language.
You know what, that was from the 2019. That's when I was chairman there. It went up to 5,000 when Rachel was chairman. So on this, Ben, did you?
Thanks. I was just wondering, Jason, the worst case scenario, or if you guys are banging on that computer every day, you have a guesstimate of what the max might be, or, you know?
It's so we have cases that take up less megabytes. We have some that take up more. We have some that are so large that the system, we have to create 2 cases to hold one because it's so massive. And that's why I talked to the person in charge with down in Albany, and he said, look, I can't tell you how many body cams you'll have, how many radio logs, if there's going to be, let's say that it's a bank robbery and there's footage inside the bank. All of that data we have to obtain, we have to disclose, and in those short time frames. So if there's good news, that data, once the case closes, does go into that very less expensive tiered storage. But there isn't, I couldn't get a prediction from the experts. They said I can't. But I can tell you this year, their prediction is that the total will be under 5,000. But the way this is being interpreted is a $5,000 all-time cap versus annual. I'm suggesting that we address it now versus I come back next year and say, all right, well, we're going to be over for this year. Let's do a new number. That's why either doing a utilization cap or no cap or whatever you think.
Supervisor Shepherd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question. Let's say you've got a case and it goes into the deep freeze, and then a few years later, you have to bring it back out. So it goes from what you're paying for the deep freeze, goes back into the active status. And are you now paying for the active status to store it at that rate, or does it maintain the?
Every case that's active in the active status goes towards the number of terabytes. So what they do, they don't individually do one case or another case. They say, how many terabytes of active cases do you have? And then if you go over a threshold, you're in the next group. So if that was the one case that put us into the next threshold for that month, we'd be at that higher rate. Then if we went glacial, it could drop to the next month. It might drop to that lower rate. But that's sort of like a blob that grows a little bit and shrinks a little bit. Maybe kind of like your deferred comp if you've got it. Sometimes it looks great. Sometimes it doesn't look so great. It sort of grows and shrinks depending on the circumstances.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, Brad.
Thank you. The data is the biggest thing of storage across the whole world. So, and you're right. You can't pinpoint it. You can't put it down. I mean, is there a resolution that we could draw up that it stays at $120 per gigabyte, and that way it gives you the opportunity to go over. And if it's going to take a jump, that you bring it to the floor and say, look, we've been using XMO, or we need to put it up there. I mean, just when you need it, you need it.
Well, that's right. So if we have a homicide tonight and they say, hey, we want to send you the file, and I say, well, I don't have anywhere to put it, that's unworkable. Obviously, we all recognize that. I have legal obligations to get it and disclose it rapidly under the law. And so it's just one of the
Okay.
realities of this system.
I'm going to pose a question to the administrator here. Oh, okay. Well,
You read my
you
mind.
recognize. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, we're not trying to nitpick here, and we know that this is a necessity. You have to have this storage. What we're trying to address is the same issue we just had at the board meeting last Friday with the emergency services contracts, where you have a resolution that's not necessarily specific to the cost. So you could handle it in a couple of ways. You could have an attachment to this that lists not to exceed rates for the storage, as Jason, I think, suggested a couple of minutes ago. You could change the not to exceed cap to an annual cap. That was the concern, is the way the resolution's written right now. Really, the only thing in it that speaks to cost is that cap. And if you remove the cap, there's no longer anything in the resolution that speaks to the cost. So we're trying to not have the same problem we had on Friday.
So we could have an attachment to the resolution with numbers on it for full disclosure.
Yeah, so one of the ways, and maybe this could work, is, and I'm looking to the administrator as well. Let's say that, because that might pursuant to the contract, let's say not to exceed the contract cost, and see attached. And then if there's a new contract entered into and it's a new cost, then that would be on there.
Okay.
Would that be a way to handle that?
I'm okay with I'm stammering.
Oh, my God. Wait, let me get my camera out.
I wouldn't mind having the budget officer's view on it, honestly.
Well, my view is it's a cost of doing business in today's world. So, I understand you want to rein in the cost, but you're going to have to accommodate the office here at some point.
Yeah. I think it's not so much in reining in the cost. It's just that there's documentation as we move forward that, we approve things with a certain amount to it,
Right.
so that auditors and treasurers have that all in mind. So it's more housekeeping than anything.
My instinct on it would be to put an annual not to exceed on it, and get for Jason to give himself enough room where that's going to be good enough for a while. And then if we bump up into that number, he'll be back, just to keep the board having a situational awareness of how much this costs. That would be my thought. Just keep it simple.
And that is probably the simplest way, I think, is what the administrator just said. Just pick a cap. But what I'd like to do is not pick a cap that makes me not be able to pay the bill and have to keep coming back. Because as you said, it's it just literally is the cost of operating the office. It's not,
But,
there's more than that.
Yep. Supervisor Stroud.
thank you. Isn't this something that simply would be part of Jason's budget? I mean, and it's just a budget. It's one of his regular every annual expense. It should be a budget item where he puts in the best guesstimate. And if he needs to shift in or out later, he can do that. But I mean, this is just one of those regular budgetary items. I don't know why all the fuss.
It relates back onto, it's a contract. So just get it right. And it's minuscule as far as the fuss goes. We just need to get that language right. So what's so that it can clear the auditor's office and the treasurer's office. So like I say, this is a housekeeping issue here. What's the best step forward? Just give it annual cap?
Yeah.
Jason, give us a number.
20,000.
Okay. So that'll be on the resolution. I'll call the question if there's no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Annual cap. Good.
And did I get to the discussion item? I
No.
think. No. Okay, so discussion item, we had made I guess call it an emergency request to fill our legal clerk position. This is the individual who has gone to the city in Glens Falls for a promotional, just better economic opportunity. And this is one of the people that handles those discovery as the things come in, builds the files. And Paulette, who's here with me, said, I wish you could come up and show them what that really means, because I think it's hard to understand in the abstract. It's it's really involved. It's a really involved process. At any rate, we want to get that filled right away because we must build those files so that we can, everything we get goes to all defense attorneys once we get it, with subject to protective orders, things of that nature.
So do you want to move this out of a discussion item into an action item?
Well, I think that maybe action took place and that's why it got moved into discussion. So I think we're permitted to do it, but it was moved into discussion. But I'm looking to this body.
The committee doesn't have to take action. It was filled on an emergency fill basis. So
Okay.
it's just for reporting purposes.
Thank you, Sarah.
Great. So I think we're ready to go on that one and start interviewing. Okay.
Mr. Lehman, any public comment?
Hi, Chairman Leggett. There is no public comment at this time.
Thank you. Any other discussion for the district attorney at this time?
Well, man.
Thank you very much.
Jason. Any other items to be able to come before the Criminal Justice Committee at this time? Hearing none, ask for adjournment. Motion, Supervisor Diamond, second by Supervisor Shepler. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved at 9:55. Thank you.